Hey writers, today we are moving on with our Foursquare organizers. We're no longer going to be working with multiple stories, but we will be selecting one. So the very first thing you need to do is go check the chart on the front board. What I've done is I've written all of your names down, and I've written down the titles of the stories with which you completed a Foursquare organizer. I would like you to circle which one you are going to move forward with. You have to choose one, and you cannot change it after today. If you notice that there isn't a title written, for example, if you don't see "Thank you, ma'am" under your name, that means you did not finish your Foursquare and you can't choose that story. So you can only choose a story that you see the title written next to your name. So right now, pause this video, go up to your chart on the front board. You need to circle the story you're going to use, and then you need to search through the pile to find your Foursquare. So you'll see a folder for 11, you'll see a folder for "Thank you, ma'am," you'll see a folder for the Marble Champ. Go ahead and do that now. Press play when you're ready. Okay, writers, so I have chosen "Thank you, ma'am" that I'm going to move forward with because I feel like my thesis statement was strong, my evidence was strong, and I'm going to be able to write a full essay about this. Now is your last and only chance to change your mind, because what you need to do is make sure you have a strong thesis statement. If you're not sure about it, you can also write your name on the board to check thesis statements. You need to make sure your evidence is strong enough. If you're not sure, again, write your name on the board, and I'll make sure I come and see you today. But I'm going to go ahead and move forward with "Thank you, ma'am." So we have, for our organizers, a theme, a thesis statement, and we've picked out 3 pieces of evidence. Today we're going to move forward and we're going to add some textual evidence. So my first question for you is, do you know what a quote is? What is a quotation? Pause the video and leave me a comment. In your own words, what is a quote? Press play when you're ready. I look forward to reading those comments. What is a quote? So you may have talked about dialogue, you may have talked about when somebody is talking, but today a quote is an exact phrase or sentence from the text. Because it's not our own words, because it's from the text, we need to put it in quotation marks to show that it's from the text. So when you write, you can use quotes. They don't have to mean dialogue. They are just as important in your writing as the rest of your writing. So these quotations are just as important as the rest of the writing that you have, your thesis, your evidence. So you're going to use them in our essays to give evidence and cite evidence from our stories. So our goal today. Today I want you to learn how to work to find the best quotes about your topic, quotes that show evidence to support your main idea or thesis. There's a lot to pick from these stories. Not all of the quotes are the best. So weighing your options. The entire story is a quote. So we need to decide which ones to use to support our evidence. So when deciding which quotes to use from the text, you really have to weigh your options carefully and look for these 2 things. 1, does my quote have specific words or actions that give evidence to support my point? And number 2, can I explain how these words or actions give evidence to support my claim? If you can't do those 2 things, then they're not good enough. So let me show you what I'm talking about using "Thank you, ma'am." So here is the organizer that I came up with for "Thank you, ma'am." My theme topic was forgiveness, and I went on to write a thesis statement from there. So I said, this would be the introduction to my essay. Sometimes it is better to forgive someone for their actions because you never know what they may be going through. Example 1, he's not taken care of. Example 2, his family's not around. Example 3, he's a really good kid going through hard times. So that's what I came up with here. Today our first bullet point in each box is going to be adding a quote to support this work. So my first idea is he's not taken care of, and I need to go into my text and find an exact quote that proves this. So I would go through and I'd reread. If you remember last time, I took some notes about which section shows that he's not taken care of. So here's the section of the text where I'm talking about that he's not taken care of. So I've underlined a couple things. Your face is dirty. That is a quote in the text, but I need to ask myself, does that really provide enough evidence? It provides some, but I couldn't expand too much on it. So I want to keep looking for another one that I'd be able to expand more on. So as I was reading, I came down and I found he looked as if he were 14 or 15. Frail and willow wild in tennis shoes and blue jeans. I really liked the descriptions in that. I liked the specific words frail and willow wild because now it's describing what his body looks like and suggesting if he's frail at 14 or 15, it shows that he's pretty weak. He's maybe not taken care of. Maybe he's not fed. He's having a hard time. So I'm going to copy this word for word into my organizer using quotations. So it starts with, he looks as if he were 14 or 15. So in my box, I'm going to go ahead and start copying that down. Quotation marks. He looks as if he were 14 or 15, comma, and then the rest of that sentence here says, frail and willow wild in tennis shoes and blue jeans. So that's what I'll put next. Frail and willow wild in tennis shoes and blue jeans, period, quote. And I also want to write that I found this quote on page 43. So I'm just going to write page 43 because later when I write my essay, I'll be able to reference that. Let me search for one that proves his family is not around. So if we remember in my story, I had been doing some underlining and some note-taking. Over here on page 44, I had a section that says his family isn't around. So I've got, there's nobody home at my house, that the boy must have been hungry, tried to snatch my pocketbook, I wanted a pair of blue suede shoes. Really, so far, the quote that stands out to me is there's nobody home at my house, because that's him literally saying that he's home alone, that there's nobody there. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this one down. I'd be able to say on page 484 of the text, the boy says there's nobody home at my house. So let me copy this one down. So I'm going to write my quotations, and I'm copying it exactly as I see it. There's nobody home at my house. End quote. And I've got a period because the text had one. And I'm going to write page 45. So when I write my essay, I'll be able to include where exactly I found it. So I have just one more that I need to do. I wrote that he's really a good kid going through hard times. What I would like for you to do is try to search for a quote for me. So what you're going to do is search through your text. You can look on page 45. I'll give you a hint. So somewhere on page 45, you'll be able to find a quote. See if you can type that in the comments. What quote would you use on page 45? So write it in quotation marks, the exact line, and then come back to this video. So press pause, find a quote from me, come back to the video. Okay, now that we are back, I may show one that's different from what you found. That's okay. It doesn't need to be the same. As long as you found a quote that you think has specific words that could support my idea, then that's wonderful. So I found he's really a good kid going through hard times. What I wanted to go with is this quote here. The woman did not ask the boy anything about where he lived or his folks or anything else that would embarrass him. I chose that quote because that's showing her feeling that he's going through a lot and he doesn't need to talk about it. He already has enough going on. She just needs to show him kindness. So I'm going to go ahead, copy that down. So I've got the woman did not ask the boy anything, and I would keep going and copy the rest of it. I'm going to save you a couple minutes though. Thanks for helping find a quote. What I'm going to let you do now is head to your own organizer. So you've already gone up to the board, you selected which story you're going to be writing about, you've grabbed that new organizer. Now it's time for you to find 3 pieces of evidence. So when you are looking for quotations, you really need to ask yourself, does my quote have specific words or actions? Like my words and actions had said, frail and willow wild, nobody home, embarrass. It had very specific words. And then can I explain how these words or actions give evidence to support my claim? So if I were to ask you, why did you pick that quote? Would you be able to tell me? So at the end of class today, you need to have 3 quotes, 1 for each piece of evidence. Happy writing.